I feel like community doesn't just happen once or overnight. It's definitely a series of events, consistency, experiences that feel like home. Content is king. How can we portray this? How can we make prospects see what this is going to look like in their head? So that's really what we've been working on for the past couple of years. With us, the influencer marketing happened organically. Content creators that move into our facility and they're like, hey, I create content for a living. It's like, oh, wow, this is actually really good. They're still creating it and posting it to their channels, their TikTok, Instagram. It's almost like free promotion.
Hey, everybody. This is Reed Wyckoff, CEO and co founder at Digible. And I want to welcome you to another session of the Digible Dudes, AKA Riffing with Reed. And today we have Shellie Greer on with us from Ovation Lifestyle Communities. And I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I'm just going to tee her up and say that Shellie has one of the cooler backgrounds that we've had on the show. Not your standard, I guess, track with multifamily or to multifamily. So I'm super curious of how they found you or how you found them. But without stealing any of your thunder, Shellie, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, how you found multifamily innovation, and then we'll dive into it.
Awesome. Well, my name is Shellie Greer. I currently work for Ovation Property Management, and I oversee our lifestyle programming and division. My background is a little unique, yes, to the multifamily, but I also feel like it really lends itself to multifamily in ways that they haven't seen before. So my background is actually branding and event planning. So large scale event planning, but also to take it back to my branding background, I started out at the UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship shortly after fashion design school, where I headed up their event merchandise section and their licensing division. So in that role, I was able to really study branding and understand branding and also brand consistency across different licensees of product. Because you have to think if you want to go into one store and pick up a UFC branded item, if you go into the store next door, it needs to look somewhat similar, at least the brand does. So I ended up doing that for about 6 years, loved that. And then I left the UFC to actually go into business as a vendor for the fighters, creating their e commerce platforms to sell their own product. So I did that for a little bit and consulted for a couple of social media agencies who were trying to get influencers off the ground and their e-commerce off the ground. So I consulted with that. We launched a lot of different stores. And then after that, I was in large scale events. So I headed up a company that was a yoga experience company. No, it sounds crazy, but I'm also a certified yoga instructor. So health and wellness is just a part of my life. Um,
Awesome.
so I headed up this yoga experience company and we did really cool things. We did employee well-being for Nike corporate employees. So we
Heard of
got
that?
to
Heard
go
of
to
that company?
Nike
Yeah.
headquarters quite a few times and do a really unique experience with yoga. So you're saying, well, how can this be so unique? Well, we had headphones. So it was a really intimate experience because you have the headphones on, we have a live DJ and also a yoga instructor to really take you through these musical journeys along with the yoga. It was very, very impactful. We had up to 1,000 people here in Las Vegas out at the casino at Red Rock Casino on International Yoga Day. 1,000 people we could draw all at once, all at the casino pool, and made quite of an impact. So that's how
There's
my
got to be
background
there's got to be something on YouTube
there
that I could
is.
that I could see that just
There is.
sounds wild. As the headphones what was behind that? Was it because it was outside, or was it different people are hearing different things? I'm just curious, what was the reasoning for the headphones?
The headphones are to really draw everyone in and to make them be able to connect and to be able to be introspective, because I don't know if you're ever working out in the public, like on the beach, and you have an instructor just yelling into a microphone. There's like music, from over here and over there. This combines the audio and the voice of the instructor. And it's funny because they were analog headphones. It's all radio frequency. People kept stealing them thinking they were like Bluetooth. And it's like, no, this is actually some really old technology
Love
um,
it.
that works very well for this environment. So really the draw is that really cool experience that nobody can hear you. Nobody can hear you talking. You can't hear them talking. You can only hear the matter at
That's awesome. That
hand.
makes sense. Totally locked in, get rid of all that sensory distraction.
Yes.
Okay, so then what was next? You were mentioning Nike is one of your
Nike,
clients. Yeah.
yes, one of our clients. So we did that for a good couple of years, and then we ended up selling that company to a franchised gym chain who then did nothing with it.
Oh, bummer.
During the pandemic, I know. It was all the year of 2020, so
I never
the
get
fact that
that. I
it
mean, when most
actually, yeah, went anywhere was actually pretty cool during that time.
Yeah. Well, it's bizarre though, right? When people buy businesses and then they do nothing. I mean, sometimes it's stamping out the competition, but it doesn't sound like that was the case here. So maybe it was chalk that one up to the pandemic, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then was the next step, I think I saw TV
Yeah,
dot fit or something. Yeah, go
TV.fit. Yeah, so after that, I took a stint in UI UX, which is development for front end and back end of apps. So I worked for a fitness app where I oversaw their entire US region and helped them develop their sales team, all of their sales materials. We were mostly a B2B company, so we were selling large memberships to certain or to larger corporations. So I headed that up for almost 2 years. That was interesting because that's actually where I got or I refined my content production skills.
Okay.
So eventually you'll learn about me as my creative eye is insane. But it got built during this TV.fit stint when I oversaw the creative production of the fitness programming for the app. So work with photographers, videographers, all the instructors, basically the producer of these videos in the U.S. market. So I love doing that because I love being behind the camera in the sense of production, not necessarily in front of the camera, although I'm okay at it. I'm okay at public speaking. But I really prefer to be behind the camera, making everything happen, every single little detail. So I did that for a couple of years until I met some owners of Ovation, and they were telling me how they really wanted to build a program where residents can come together. So they ended up hiring me, and then I created the program pretty much from the ground up. And one of the reasons why they hired somebody with experience and expertise is because they figured out that the property managers already had plenty to do. So then you tell them to layer on resident activities um, on top of all that, then it can get a little challenging and also frustrating because you're working extra hours. And I'll use the analogy of property managers sometimes don't have the creative eye or experience, so they end up using red Solo cups and styrofoam coolers. So, as a resident, and especially in an elevated or a luxury community, that's not something you want to see. So, that wasn't really matching the vibe. So that's why they brought me in to sharpen the vibe. And in that, I ended up building this entire program, and it is a brand within itself. Branding is more than just a logo. Branding is, how does this person feel at my community or at my place of employment? So that's really what I help tie the pieces together for Ovation. And that way that everything that we do is very elevated. It looks good. It makes sense. It goes with the property. It goes along with our brand vibes.
Amazing. Such a cool background and now such a cool job. And I'm a big fan of Ovation. Got to know them, owners and second generation to be, or already in transition, I suppose. But when I was out in Vegas, I think it was 2, 3 years ago, where we first crossed paths with Ovation. Speaking of which, can you share just a little bit more about Ovation, and then just give us a little bit of a tease on kind of that sub brand, and then start firing away some questions at you.
Yes, Ovation is a very interesting company in Las Vegas. It is a third generation property developer. So now I'm working with the third generation. But the first generation, Erwin Molaski, was one of the founding fathers of Las Vegas, what I call a founding father of Las Vegas. So the Molaskis were very intelligent when it came to marketing, when it came to building. So Grandpa Irwin, his first project on Las Vegas Boulevard was the Pyramids Hotels. So they built a small hotel, and then they also worked with other people on the strip to build their facilities. And then the Mulaski group of companies went on to build Sunrise Hospital, the Boulevard Mall here. Some very like historical places in Las Vegas were either built or touched by the Mulaski family. And then they went on to build all of the IRS buildings, all of the FBI buildings across the United States,
Wow.
which is super cool, right? They got that kind of attention that they were really good, and so they're able to do this for the government. But also, what they started to do was get into the apartment homes. So Ovation is not like many other property management companies because we design, develop, construct, and then whereas most companies turn the buildings over to a third party management company, Ovation has a property management division that steps in and manages the properties. And we're in two sectors. We're in the market rate sector and we're also in the affordable sector. So we deal a lot with the senior affordable demographic, 55 and up, who need a place to live but can't afford the regular market rate. So we do help out in that capacity. And that sector is actually growing very, very fast. It's very, very important to the Molaskis that they give back to the community and also support by allowing affordable housing and building affordable housing because we need that here in Nevada.
Amazing. That's yeah, end to end for sure. And I had no idea about Grandpa Irwin, so that was just awesome history to share with us. And then the yeah, the least expected path. I feel like going from helping develop properties, commercial assets in Vegas to the FBI. Across the country, meaning governmental. But yeah, it just tells you, as you said, some very intelligent and kind of the span of that vision or the scope of that. And also super fascinating to know that you guys very much, I don't know if cater is the wrong word, but are aiming for that luxury end, that super special boutique kind of brand and lifestyle experience, but also supporting the affordable. And I love that sounds like the catalyst was to make sure that you're giving back to the community. So if you're not an Ovation fan or weren't already, hopefully you are just with that 5 to 10 minute intro. So for you, Shellie, you mentioned there's the sub brand. So maybe you can just kind of start us off there. I don't know how much background behind, just even in the naming and building that brand you want to share with us, but maybe you can give us a few headlines of what this sub, kind of lifestyle brand is at Ovation. And you mentioned, I think it's been a couple of years, but if you want to share kind of formation and where does it sit today?
Sure. So the Ovation Lifestyle brand started about 4 years ago. I've been with the company for 5 years. Took us some time to build and get started, but we started about 4 years ago at six of our communities. So we have communities named Aspire, and we have multiple. So they're all at their street names, just like a lot of people do in the industry. So six of our Aspire product is involved in the Ovation Lifestyle program. So the basis for the program basically is creating community within the community, right? Amenities can just sit there and people might be able, to use a conference room, but how do people feel in these amenities? And that's really where the Ovation Lifestyle program comes in. We really want the resident to have a great experience while living there. So whether that be, walking down to the front desk to get something, grabbing something from one of our grab and go markets, or using a conference room, we want all the touch points to feel good for the resident. So we've been doing that for about 4 years. Some of the new properties that are opening up in the future, they will also be on the lifestyle program if they're in the luxury sector. So this program is going to continue to grow and grow. And one of the anchor points is the internet service. So within this program, you get the internet included in your unit. So that right there is an easy touch point. You don't really have to do anything when you move in other than call the cable company and have them switch it on. So you don't have to get a separate bill. You don't have to acquire separately. Everything is made easy for the resident.
Yeah, I love that. It's easier said than done, right? With all the
Yeah.
different things that go into getting started. I'll say, in a new apartment or a new home that you have to think about or pull together. And so, the more that you can consolidate or provide that easy button, the better. And I think what a great anchor. I think as you were saying, like with the Wi-Fi, just to take that off somebody's hands. So I love that. You talked about kind of at the front, just the importance of branding and consistency. One of the challenges in multifamily, and I don't see it going away anytime soon, is the dilemma of whether to brand or focus on the parent brand. And a lot of times, at least for us, that's been the third party management company. So you mentioned how that works at Ovation versus what's typical. But then something like an Aspire versus branding the property. So I'm curious how you approach that dance, I guess, that balance of whether you're leaning more in with these six communities and the ones that are coming on into kind of we brand or market Aspire first, and then we attach the name of that community to that, or is it the flip, or is it something in the middle?
I think the way that Ovation did it and the way that they want to be seen in the market, Ovation, the parent brand, they want to market that and they want people to know the Ovation brand and that we have 40 communities under the Ovation brand. The sub brands, which would be our Aspire brand, the luxury mid-rise brand, or like for example the Radiance brand, it's 55 and up active adult. And then we also have a garden style sub brand that doesn't have a name just yet. So while the company is 30 years old, we're still kind of working through the branding nomenclature that comes along with formalizing everything. But the brand standpoint that I speak of is the feeling of the brand, right? Not necessarily the logo of the brand, but the feeling of the brand. How do we feel inside an Ovation community? We know we're going to get X, we know we're going to get Y, and we know that we're going to get Z every time, even if we transfer to another community. So consistency is definitely key in branding. And one of the ways in the Ovation Lifestyle program that I reiterate the consistency is through the events. So the signage at events, marketing to the residents internally for the events. Everything is done with care and consistency and visually appealing and visually aesthetic. So everything will look the same when you go from community to community, or if you go to a different event from community to community, you're going to get the same experience. And that is very important, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you if you've run into any conflict, even if it's within your own head on this. But when you mention that consistency and that lifestyle experience, where you've either learned through feedback, or and that could be directly from residents, prospects, or even the on-site team, that this event landed more at this community, not as much at this community. And all this is to say, like trying to create consistency, but also allow for some customization, I'll say, from one Aspire property to the next. And if that's like, we don't even entertain that because we're so maniacal, and I mean that in a positive way, but so dedicated to consistency that when it comes to the event programming, if you will, from one again Aspire community to the next, they're very similar. Or do you lean into some customization or experimentation within that suite of assets?
We do a little bit of both, actually. So I do have a designated resident app for events. I work with the Flamingo Group, and they basically white label the app to whatever we want. So we called it Ovation Lifestyle. And within this app, it lists all the events for the community, and it sends out reminders, sends out text reminders, email reminders. But the beauty of this product is it collects event feedback, and all in the back end of the websites, because we don't want them to go to Google, right, if they're feeling a certain kind of way. So we like
Yeah.
to track event feedback internally. So if they RSVP for the event inside the Ovation Lifestyle app, they're sent a survey for it, and in that survey they can rate it from 1 to 5, and they can put in any additional feedback that they might have. But every property is so different, and I'm sure multifamily people know this everywhere. But I feel like every property I work with has a different personality. There's like a ringleader of the resident group,
Yep.
the mayor of a group. It's just very interesting to see how the residents interact with each other and who wants to take the lead. And, some properties don't like X and some properties do, but that's what the lifestyle app does for me. It allows me to tap into what the residents are feeling of that particular time. So if they don't like the sound healing class, or I'm getting terrible ratings on it, even though I know it's great, that just means they're not really lending towards that kind of or that kind of medium. So I do take that into consideration, and then I will just kind of adapt the events to cater to the certain demographic.
Well, that makes a ton of sense, and I love what you're saying about having a chance to kind of intercept in a way, but just getting that feedback through the app instead of it all being broadcast immediately publicly, through Google. I think it gives you guys a chance to build more of a relationship, and then obviously delve a little bit deeper where you need to, where there might be some concerns or frustrations. It's too often that you just see that immediately, show up and. Uh, then has a big impact, obviously, on how a property is perceived. So I think that's awesome. And it sounds like you didn't give me a percentage, but a good portion of the program you develop is driven from the feedback that you're getting through the app. But I imagine also with all of your background, you got plenty of ideas in your back pocket. So maybe it's a combination of the two. And then each year, is there much, I guess, turnover, if you will, in the events and the programming, where you feel like, hey, each year we got to kind of start fresh, or is it let's just optimize, keep the events that we know are super successful, and then we'll experiment with a few others each year?
It's a little of all the above. So we definitely keep the staples that are tried and true, i.e., food service, like
Mhm.
brunch or dinner is always the number one attended event, because I'm able to track attendance on this app as well. So I can really see the numbers and how many people attend which events. So that will kind of set the cadence for each individual property of what's the most popular by residents. And then my creative brain is just always thinking of new things, new and improved things. And like, for example, one of my favorite ones was actually last year for Valentine's Day. I dipped into my old merchandise world, and we created customized beanies for residents to give as gifts to their significant others.
No, that's
So
awesome.
they could just pull up and say, "Oh, I want Joe on the beanie." So we had customizers on site, and we customized and heat pressed the beanie for the residents.
Love
So
that.
just really cool ideas like that surface, and I'm able to implement those. But yeah, for the most part, it is the residents speak what they want, and I pay attention. But also, I throw in things that are relevant to current trends. And at the forefront is the Ovation brand. So I always have to keep that in mind. And our brand is more wellness focused. So I have to keep that in mind when planning all the events. But for me, like I told the owner, it's like planning a birthday party for myself every weekend. So that's why I found joy in it, because I definitely live and breathe that kind of brand myself. I am the brand, so that's what makes it work.
Yeah, well, you can feel that just talking to you. Talk to me a little more, if you can, on I guess success metrics. So, looking in the lifestyle app, and getting that sentiment, I'm sure is a big part of it. But I would imagine, I mean, maybe this is oversimplifying, but just the amount of prospects, that you guys see, the type of prospect to a degree, but also renewals would be part of the success metrics. I mean, this is all just trying to get at like, how do you know that something like this is worth, I guess, investing in and even kind of doubling down? It sounds like the way Ovation is thinking about this. Like, how do you guys determine the, I guess, the gradient of success?
Yeah, and that's a hard one because brand is so hard to measure, right? We don't send out surveys and say, "How are we making you feel today?" And that's ultimately what this is. This is a longer term brand strategy for Ovation in the marketplace and also a differentiator in the marketplace. And not everybody just wants to make people feel good, you know? So
Right.
you have to have a couple of things. And in my instance, ownership really believed in this vision of creating community for everyone. And so you have to have that first and foremost, a vision. And then secondly, we can't really tie any of this to retention only because retention is made up of so many different things. Did they have a good move-in experience? Did they have a good maintenance experience? Did a place go up for sale down the road? Did they qualify for a house? Like there's just so many different things. So to say that we retained a resident solely because of this program, there's not really any direct correlation per se. So we use the Ovation Lifestyle app as the gauge of are people liking the program or not. Because at the end of the day, we want people to feel good and we want to activate these spaces and give them a soul. And that sometimes can take years and years and years. It's a brand longevity play. And a lot of times owners and operators don't understand that first and foremost. So if they don't understand that, then it's going to be hard for them to measure that.
Yeah, for sure. So much of that tracks. You do need somebody with the vision, the capital, frankly, the buy-in, and you have all those things. And I'm sure you consider yourself very lucky to have the job that you do. But it's great for Vegas to have a company like this that is in it for the long game. Obviously, already third generation. That is pursuing, something like this, and I'll say of this kind of magnitude because it's not a small undertaking. But one of the things we often encourage is like just those brand searches, outside of what you'd see in the app. Are you seeing that light up, that traffic, that referral kind of non-paid traffic? I'm trying to kind of set up a segue here or bridge to how you think about marketing this from the kind of success metrics, but you can't necessarily market everything you were describing with just a ad on Google, right? So I'm curious how much you partner up and what you can share for those that also are on kind of taking a or similar endeavor, I'll say, of trying to build a luxury brand within multifamily. What you found to be most successful in marketing this amazing experience? Just trying to tee you up. You have TikTok, you have YouTube, you have social, you have email. Obviously, the events themselves, I'm sure, are a big driver as well. But yeah, what can you share with us about the marketing strategy to get the word out on Ovation and Inspire?
So with lifestyle, content is king. How can we portray this? How can we make prospects see what this is going to look like in their head? So that's really what we've been working on for the past couple of years. I've been working with our marketing director, Sarah, who you know, I think, pretty well.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so I work with her and her team on coordinating events that get professionally filmed and photography, stills and videos. And then we then take that content and we put it in little bite-sized pieces that then can go on our website, that can then go into ads, that can then go into other marketing materials like lease sheets, amenities, stuff like that. So over time, everything is updated with these really nice professional imagery. So I will highlight events that I think would make for good content. I make sure all the vendors are on point that day and that setup is on point.
Yeah. Well, again, it just sounds like a kind of a dream job. Sorry if I'm saying that too much. But tell me, you mentioned the beanies and a couple of other examples, but as you reflect on maybe 2025, you can go a little further back if you want. But can you share with us some of the more memorable either events or connections that you're able to create with this program? Just I guess the fun stuff, where it's like that was so cool, and we can't wait to do that again. And if you have a couple of ideas, sneak peeks, unless you don't want to share, about what's in store for 2026.
Yeah, for 2025, we did a lot of cool things, but I think the coolest thing that we did, it was called a self-care social. So we had a cold plunge. We had a sauna brought in by our friends at Etho Wellness. They're local here. And they have all this like to go wellness stuff. So we had them bring that into our courtyard. We had about a 3 hour time span where residents could come through and participate in group fitness classes. They could cold plunge or sauna. And then on the inside, we had a lot of wellness vendors set up. So supplements, physical therapy, facials, IV therapy, so we basically centralized a hub for our residents to come down and just relax and take care of themselves on a random Sunday. But then the marketing component was I also hosted an open house. So we had an open unit so that residents could bring all their friends to this self-care social, and then they can see how the community interacts, and they can also see an open unit and then schedule tours and kind of go through the funnel like that. That was definitely the cream of the crop at that wellness festival, I call it, or a self-care social. And then we also, another engaging part we had was t-shirt making. So you could pick a different Ovation design that I had on a heat transfer, and then you could pick your t-shirt body, and then we pressed it together for you on site and gave it to the residents. So that part was really cool too. And as far as 2026 goes, I think we're just continuing on the wellness path. It's very popular. It's trending. Our residents are absolutely loving it. So really kind of fleshing out what that looks like right now. We do a lot of sound healing, and that's very popular here. So we're going to further that to more somatic movement classes and breathwork classes. So kind of taking that to the next level. And then also our food service is so popular. That's going to be back, but I'm thinking about different ways to elevate it and kind of change it up so that it's not just come through the cafeteria line, even though it's not that, but some people might think that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, can you talk a little bit? Did I catch it? Was it Radiance?
Radiant
Um,
Senior, our active senior
yeah,
brand.
yeah,
Mark,
active adult and affordable, right? Or were those separate?
so they're separate. We have the affordable sector, and then we do have the Radiance market rate to
Okay.
those communities.
So could you? I imagine I don't know if it's difficult, but just so distinctly different. How you approach the resident experience and culture at in those other two kind of segments. So yeah, to the extent I don't know how responsible you are for all three, or if you're just focused on Aspire, but I'm sure you could speak on some level to all three. Uh, So yeah, could you talk to us a little bit about how you think and approach the active adults versus the affordable when it comes to the culture, the community, kind of the vibe?
Yes, so I don't oversee the affordables, but I do know enough to speak about it. For the multifamily side, we do have the Radiance brand, our 55 up active lifestyle. And they do have a program, a lifestyle program. I do make their monthly calendars. And yes, the approach is different because they like different things. They were born in a different era. And also, this is actually the driver of why the owner of the company wanted to do this, is because he saw so many seniors without family, without loved ones, all by themselves. And he really wanted them to just come down to the great area, the common areas, and get together. So that part is actually still really special to me because I actually feel most connected with the senior residents. Because when I built the program, I was the one, the boots on the ground doing everything, doing all the shopping, doing all the event planning, setting up the events, serving the residents. I did it all from A to Z in the beginning. And I really connected with these seniors. They do like different stuff. They like bingo. They like trivia. But an important part to Ovation is keeping them physically active. So they might not like physical fitness, but there are some that do. So we do provide 2 to 3 fitness classes a week that are senior focused. So we have chair yoga there versus regular yoga at our market rate, or excuse me, our Aspire. We don't do any mat Pilates at the Radiance, but we do it at the Aspires, which is mat Pilates is trending right now. So it's very popular. That's all people want.
Yeah.
The seniors, they really like chill stuff. So we do some of the sound healing. We do the chair yoga, and we also do a strength and stability class. So it kind of teaches them to build their strength, their stability, because as you know, we need that as we get older. So that's a very important part of the Radiance program, is to keep them healthy and keep them active.
I love that. And since you don't directly oversee the affordable assets, I won't probe too much, but I'm just saying out loud, and more in the vein of a question than an assumption, that whether that would be easier or harder to build community, because I think everybody would hopefully agree with this, but amenities alone or events alone, don't drive culture or community. It's the people. And so if you want to comment or offer any thoughts on how that's different and whether that's harder or more challenging to establish, and I don't want to say as much just how do you feel, I think that might not be the right approach here, but just community at affordable assets versus, as you said, market rate or even luxury. I mean, just totally other side of the spectrum. But yeah, I don't think I've ever asked that question on the show. Is it harder to build, culture and community at affordable, or is it similar or even easier?
It's
Any thoughts?
definitely similar. It's not harder. If anything, it could be easier because I find that people that don't come from very much are generally very, very excited to get something, right?
Hmm.
So these programs are actually the affordable sector. They work with charities in town that actually come to the property and do more than what we do on the market rate side. So they have a lot more events. They have, daily coffee and snacks and crossword puzzles.
That's great.
And yeah, I do work with their executive director sometimes. I kind of show him everything that I'm doing so that he can then take examples and do a different version or take elements from what I'm doing and do a different version that better meets their budget. But overall, their program is very, very robust. It's 2 to 3 times a day. It's very, very active. And these seniors are down there. They are in those community spaces. They have found their new friends. They have found their new home. And that's really the beauty of this program in general. And that's what keeps me connected, is seeing all of these seniors happy, and especially on the affordable side.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm curious what the I guess I was going to say renewal rates, but that sounds wrong way of putting this. But just the retention, I guess, or loyalty within those three segments as well. Like, do you see higher kind of renewal and loyalty from Active 55, from the luxury brand, or from affordable? And where I'm also I'll take this is what I've heard from a few different companies in multifamily with, I'll say, maybe a similar vision, but not by any stretch the exact same and not as diversified, is that they're aiming for kind of this Bonvoy, Marriott type brand. And this would, of course, apply more to Aspire, not to the other two necessarily. But that one of the theories in that is that your sister properties, which obviously Ovation has a high concentration. I was going to ask you about this too, geographically, if there's any interest or properties outside of Las Vegas. But I think you guys have the most properties combined in Vegas, and so that theoretically would allow, as you're building up this brand equity, for somebody that maybe moves across town to say, hey, I just want to stay in an Ovation, versus the loyalty at just at a property level. And that's one of the reasons to do this, is like the more you can build up that brand equity, consistency, and experience, the better chance you have of keeping them, not for one lease, but for potentially a decade or longer, right? So that was a mouthful, but it's just trying to get at whether you're already seeing that, or if that's one of the theories behind this, is that given the concentration, the number of properties that Ovation has, and that you're in it for the long game, that you'll see maybe more movement and retention, kind of lifetime value, if you will, with these residents, because they become more loyal to the different brands we just walked through.
That's definitely what we're going for. We want them to be loyal. We want them to feel free that they can move around from community to community. We have had instances where someone on our market rate side all of a sudden is financially unable to pay their rent because of certain life events or what have you. And now they qualify for the affordable property. So I've seen residents from Radiance go from Radiance to the affordable side,
Mm,
and I have seen one time a resident come from the other side. They came from affordable to market rate because they no longer qualified because, I don't know, they cashed in their stocks, something like that. But the affordable side is highly regulated. So, they have to be in compliance with the state and
sure.
also federal guidelines. And one of their guidelines is they have to always be full. So we have a waiting list for our affordable side, a
Mm,
very long waiting list. So we are always full there. We're not allowed not to be. So that is the difference, right? In one. Whereas their retention is always really good because these older individuals are going there to retire, to spend, the last decade of their life before they need some kind of assisted living, right? Because we don't do assisted living, it's active living. So we're unable to take care of people.
right.
Um, so unfortunately, the times we see them leaving the property is to transfer into assisted living, or if they've unfortunately passed away. So the retention automatically is high on that side.
Makes sense. Well, as far as I guess the next few years, not just 2026, what can you share as far as I guess intentions and growing this brand, or the properties? Is it something that you're expecting to move beyond Vegas, or is that one of the I guess key, I guess principles at Ovation is we will only stay here in Vegas. It seems like it's got so much upside and opportunity, but I also would very much appreciate the discipline of, hey, we know where we want to stay, which is our roots. So yeah, anything you can share about a few years out, as it relates to expansion.
Yes. So our tagline is we live for Las Vegas. And we do. Like our everything is here. We built Las Vegas. We live for Las Vegas. Is there interest in going outside of Las Vegas at this time? No. And we get a lot of this question a lot actually. We did We did do some third party management of some places that we built in other locations, but we don't really do that anymore. So it's very centralized to the Las Vegas Valley at this time and in the immediate future. But as far as the brand tiers go, we are opening an elevated luxury community soon. It hasn't broke ground yet, but it is going to be the tier above Aspire, so ultra luxury.
Wow.
And yes, this is where we're going to have saunas, red light therapy, steam rooms, spa experience type, and a really elevated lifestyle program. So it's going to be a different tier than what we're already doing. So my creative brain right now is kind of differentiating those tiers in my mind and working on that.
Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. Um, what would you say has been the most important amenity? I know you're more on the experience lifestyle, these events. It's a common question. We often either get asked this ourselves or it comes up when we talk. But um, in the last couple of years, like for example, smart technology in multifamily has I don't know if I go as far as table stakes, but has become very important. What have you heard or noticed or observed, either through usage statistics, the sentiments, but when it comes to on-site and the amenities, what is indexing most right now, if you don't mind sharing?
Wow, right now we have two properties that look very similar. They opened around the same time. Aspire at Redwood and Aspire at Flamingo Grand. And they have this built-in courtyard that sits on the center of everything, and the building is the perimeter of the courtyard. So within these courtyards, I mean, they're huge. There's like 15 different courtyards within it. There's a dog park, there's a yoga lawn, there's a fire pit, there's all kinds of things, right? There's all these different spaces that you can activate on within the courtyard. And I feel like that truly is an amenity within itself because it lends to so many different things.
Super cool, and probably also creates a little bit more obviously sense of community, but also safety, and that those things aren't on the outside. They sit inside within a courtyard. I love that. You had mentioned, I think, kind of at the top of the podcast, just about the influencers, and I know you have a background in this, but I'm going to go now more micro influencers, but how important or valuable that is within these communities to have those champions, if you will, the mayor, I think you referred to it as, of a community. And I'm just curious how much that's just organic, or is that something that your on-site teams actually look for, and it's maybe more formal than people realize, but just I know that so much, I mean, in any business, right, of your success is based on referrals. It's just from hearing people that have engaged, experienced with the brand. And how does that shape up? Is it just, yeah, naturally, like over the course when we bring a new community online, or even the ones that have been stabilized for a few years, it just happens organically, or is there anything more to it?
Couple of different ways. So with us, the influencer marketing happened organically. We have people, content creators that move into our facility or our buildings, and they're like, "Hey, I create content for a living." And it's like, "Oh wow, this is actually really good." And there's some that's not that great or not in line with our brand, but they're still creating it and posting it to their channels, their TikTok, Instagram, etc. So it's almost like free promotion because the events, they look really good, they're Instagram worthy, and that's really what we want. We want residents to be posting about it. We don't even ask them, but we make it look good enough to where they could post it. But we do have a couple of content creators that we work directly with that are not residents, and then we also have some that are residents that came to be just by being residents.
Yeah. Well, that
And
makes sense.
very important. And right now in Las Vegas, there's a bunch of like I call them generic influencers only because they're Vegas marketers. So they're doing tourist ideas, trying to attract people to Las Vegas. You'll see a lot of our competitors go to them and pay them to post about living at one of their properties, but almost in an organic way. You don't really know that they're paid. They're just like, oh, I'm here today and I actually got an apartment.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see that happening a lot here in the marketplace. We haven't gone that direction yet, but we do have some content creators that we pay to make content for us in post.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna see a lot more of that. As you said, at
Oh,
some
yeah.
point, content is king, and people heard that for years, but, with the new, kind of habits, I'll say, and disruption of AI search, paid media in general, and I know this isn't your direct, background, but, is shifting significantly, and it doesn't mean that, there still isn't paid content, but just moving away from more of a bottom funnel and more to a content forward or driven strategy. And I think that's where these influencers are going to really take off, especially at the micro level, within multifamily, for a variety of reasons. Um, so I'm want to make sure if there's anything that we didn't hit that you wanted to talk about or share that we can. But I also want to give people a chance to just know how to get in touch with you. If they're in I don't want to say similar situation because I think it's pretty unique. But that have questions about how to build a luxury brand. That yeah. Well, let me just first let you answer that. How would you want somebody to get in touch with you?
Sure, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there. I'm always posting about what we're doing, giving good examples of what resident events look like or what good branded resident events look like. So you can find me on there, Shellie Greer. I think I'm the only one.
That's actually surprising with that name. Not that it's not got some uniqueness to it, but compared to myself, I guess I always index off of that.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to leave you with one more question, or ask you one more question before we leave. I should reframe that. We like to often ask about kind of hot takes or contrarian perspectives or points of view from people that we have on. And for you, I think it's a pretty simple way of asking this. Is when it comes to luxury and lifestyle. I don't know if luxury is critical here, but branding and building these types of community brands, what would be your hot take or contrarian, where it's like a lot of people would assume this or think that, but I see it differently, and I either have evidence, that it is in fact not what you'd expect, or it's an instinct that I think we may see kind of prove itself out over the next year or two.
I feel like community doesn't just happen once or overnight. It's definitely a series of events, consistency, experiences that feel like home. It is a feeling, and I can't really explain it more than that. You just have to really be in it, and it takes time. There's a long brand play at play, and you just have to stick to your guns and keep going.
All right, very good. Well, Shelly, this was great. And yeah, you already heard how to get in touch with her. And for those that are listening and starting to move towards more of a lifestyle marketing strategy or concept, I think Shelly laid out some amazing principles, frameworks, and obviously some great success they've had in a short amount of time. Really, when you just think about 4.5 years. So I'm excited to see where it goes. We're super fans here at Digible, and just grateful for you coming on the show and sharing all this.
Thank you, Reed. We love Digible. We love everything that Digible has done for us. Pretty much transformed our marketing here. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I wish I could take the credit. I
No, your
think it's
team's great.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'll definitely pass that on, and look forward to working with you guys more in 2026.
Thank you, Reed.
All right. Thanks, Shelly.